As a producer, your job can be very different from project to project. Sometimes you're responsible for building a song out from scratch. Sometimes you're going to take an artist's idea and you're going to kind of flesh that out with them. And other times there might be another producer that kind of started the track and you just really have to come along and finish it and get it ready to go out for the actual record. And that's exactly what we're going to look at today. Today we're going to be looking at a song that I co-produced with Crustacean for Riley and Platinum. It's a song called LA Fucked You Up. And I'm going to show you exactly what Crustacean did with it. I'm going to show you all of his stems, his kind of initial demo, and why Riley and Platinum chose to cut it. And then I'm going to show you everything that I added to just really get it to that final point where we could put it on the album and it kind of matched everything else. So let's dive into Cubase and start looking at the production session for LA Fucked You Up. But before we do that, my name's Austin. You're watching Make Pop Music. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what videos you want to see in the comments down below because we do take requests. And then other than that, after the video, if you want to support us, head over to makepopmusic.com. We have sample packs, preset packs, MIDI packs, and a start to finish production course. And then other than that, if you want to hear this song, it is out. Go support Riley and Platinum. The link will be in the description below. Let's dive into Cubase and let's take a look at this production. I think it's only appropriate to start with the song exactly as Crustacean had it when he sent it to Riley. So I'm going to show you the first demo that I ever heard. This is Crustacean's production and then kind of a rough vocal from Riley.
You think you popping in stilettos? I guess you never got the memo. You love couture, but it's just Prada. New vintage shirts that say Nirvana. LA fucked you up, so trust me on this. You don't need.
So it's a really, really cool song. It's got a really nice swing. It kind of leans into that like West Coast, super chill hip hop vibe that I've heard Riley do quite a bit. And then, you know, our friend Platinum kind of came onto the record and did his thing with verse 2. We'll eventually get to that. But I want to kind of show you how you take something like that that's already a really, really, really good bare bones for the song and then flesh it out with things that are tasteful and don't step on Crustacean's ideas while also getting this to sound like it can fit on the record that we've made for Riley where I produced everything else. So let's go ahead and we'll start with the drum so I can kind of show you what we did. So we have the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. Those are all his original stems. So let me go ahead and solo those so you can hear what we're doing. One thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of filter out these drums for the verse because I noticed on his version, there wasn't a huge dynamic between the verse and the chorus. So we're just using some RC20 to kind of make these drums a little bit distorted, kind of make them sound like they've gone through tape a couple times. We're using some filtering, and that's going to go on the whole drum bus. So that already added quite a bit of vibe to what we had for the original demo. And then what I wanted to do was just layer up some tonal snares and some wood hits and things like that, just to give us a little bit of extra movement because in my opinion, it was just kind of a standard 8-bar drum loop, and I felt like we needed something just a little bit extra. So we have these. And then a reverse. And then when we layer those, it's really subtle, but it adds a nice little bit of depth. And then we're going to layer up some extra hats in the second half of the verse just to add a little bit of extra movement. Without. So adding these like little loose hats right here, it's basically just a hi-hat loop that I bit crushed a ton of. And then I basically took all of the transients away with a transient designer. So we're bringing down the attack and the sustain, and you get something like this. It's this really cool, like glitchy bit crushed percussion sound. Other than this. So that's all that we have for the main verse drums. I'm not adding that much. It was really just trying to get those to sit better in the pocket. And then other than that, let's move on to the bass. The bass is somewhere that I actually replaced his bass completely. So if we take a listen to his demo one more time, he did a really, really good job with the bass, but it was kind of more of like a live track, like almost G-funk bass.
I guess you never got the memo. You love couture, but it's just Prada.
And I wanted it to sit a little bit more in that 80s vibe that we've used for the rest of Riley's records that I've done. So I just kind of swapped that out for a patch of my own. It's just a serum patch. And it sounds like this. Added a walk down. Just doing little things like that. So now with that and the drums, we're getting a little bit more movement with some of the extra layers that we've added. And we've got a little bit more depth with some of the extra layers. And that's pretty much it for the verse. Other than that, I've just got a couple little risers and hits that come in a little bit later. So we've got this little cash register back here on the back half. And then we're really just transitioning into the second verse where we start to pull in some chords and stuff like that. So let's take a listen to the cash register.
You love couture, but it's just Prada. New vintage shirts that say Nirvana. LA fucked you up, so trust me on this. You don't.
So this is where things really start to kind of differ from the demo. So here's what we had in the original.
Fucked you up, so trust me on this. You don't need handfuls of the Xanax cups of activists. You popped the pill out in Saloon, now you an activist.
So as you can hear in the original version that Crustacean did, he has this kind of like dubbed, like glitchy bass that I thought was really, really cool. It just didn't quite fit the record in my opinion. So I swapped that out for like a record scratch and then just added a couple little big effects. Layer that up with this reverse E-piano that he already had. And then I added this little loop that I found on here as well. And things like that add quite a bit to the song. So now let's keep moving on to what we have. So other than that, that's when we start to bring in those like glitched out kind of hat loops that we had earlier. And then as you can see here, I'm layering up the bass. So for this part, I wanted the bass to sustain a little bit longer, and I'm adding a little sub layer in there so it can kind of progressively get bigger as the song goes. Drums, it has this really nice like West Coast bounce. That's pretty much all we have for this so far still. One thing that I wanted to do that we didn't really have in the demo from Crustacean is add things like little stops. It's something that I do a lot in records that I produce, and you'll kind of hear that as we start going into this section over here.
On the side, but it's for cannabis. You flying first class to Dubai like it's an accident. Now that's depression. You've been here 3 years and you haven't learned your lesson. You feed your nose in this.
We have this little drum fill right here from the Anderson pack that I just added a bunch of filtering and effects on. And then other than that, here's where we get into what we actually have for the chords of this song. So all of these were the original stems from Crustacean. It's just chords. As you can hear, he kind of tucked some side chaining into those. It was cool. I wanted to leave that. But what I did was I layered it up with this new synth from Serum just to add width. And then I'm adding in that little synth lead. And the synth lead actually adds quite a bit. So it's just little things like that that can really help, I think, take a song from something that sounds like a really, really, really good demo all the way up to being a finished song. We just needed a little bit of counter melody. I wanted it to be a simple song all the way through, but I still felt like it needed a little bit of something for interest.
Like it's an accident. Now that's depression. You've been here 3 years and you haven't learned your lesson. You feed your nose in Instagram like where's the mention?
And then other than that, we just have a bunch of vocal production that Riley kind of did himself that I just mixed with different delays and reverbs and stuff like that. It's just formant vocals, you know, reverb throws, things like that.
Dubai like it's an accident. Now that's depression. You've been here 3 years and you haven't learned your lesson. You feed your nose in Instagram like where's the mention?
So none of that was in that original demo either. As you can hear, this was just a lead.
Dubai like it's an accident. Now that's depression. You've been here 3 years and you haven't learned your lesson. You feed your nose in Instagram like.
Overall, I just wanted something that leaned a little bit more into the pop lane rather than just straight up hip hop. And I wanted the whole mix and the whole production to have a little bit more width and a little bit more space. So that was mainly what I focused on. Let's go ahead and let's move on to the chorus, because this is where we do start to add quite a bit from my end. So we'll see right here that we've got a couple different swells from Crustacean, and then I added my own. So here's mine. And then inside the actual mix, here's what we have.
Somebody, think you really need somebody. You don't know what you've been missing, but somehow you like it. I don't know why you keep tripping.
Here's what we had for the initial demo from Crustacean.
You don't know what you've been missing, but somehow you like it. I don't know why you keep tripping.
Very cool. We kept everything that he had from that original. It's really just adding a cymbal right here. We don't really add any other percussion. And then other than that, we just have an exhaust hit that I added. Sounds like this. And then this little vocal texture was kind of a cool thing that we add throughout. Here's what it sounds like with no effects. Just added a bunch of reverb and delay. Nothing crazy though. Pretty simple. And then other than that, I have 2 different basses now for the hook. So kind of doing the same thing. They're just a little bit more open, a little bit more aggressive, and they have a bit more low end. So we have all of that. And then in terms of synths, here's everything that we had from the original demo from Crustacean. Really, really nice, kind of like beautiful wide plucks. So we're in good shape already. I just thought that it needed a little bit extra width and texture. So I added that same synth from earlier in the verse that I already showed you, plus one more. And then we've got a nice West Coast lead to kind of lead him back into that G-Funk element. And then that mixed with all of the extra layers that Riley did and some mixing, now we get a huge chorus that sounds a little bit like this.
You don't know what you've been missing, but somehow you like it. I don't know why you keep tripping, you're so indecisive. Go be back for the West Coast, you've been outside and you like.
We also have that little dropout. That was not in the original demo. It just kind of naturally went.
Go be back for the West Coast, you've been outside and.
Just thought it was a nice moment to add a little bit of intensity. So all I did was take out all the bass and add this little crushed one. It's just, I believe, a Serum 808 that we have from one of our presets. Oh, it's actually not even one of ours. It's just another preset. It's basically just an 808 with a bunch of distortion and some sidechain. And then other than that, we're just bringing down the volume of everything else so it can kind of sit on its own. So it gives us a nice little chance to drop everything out for the listener. And then it comes back in nicely for the second half of the chorus. Adding things like that when I'm a co-producer on a song, that's really where I like to sit, is adding little moments like starts and stops, adding little risers and effects, adding different textural elements. If I'm co-producing, I try not to add that many new ideas. Like, yes, I'll add a new lead synth everywhere as kind of a counter melody, but I don't want to be, taking Crustacean's demo and completely ripping it apart and building it back together. He did an amazing job with that initial version. I just thought that it needed like that last little 10-15% to really get it to sound, radio ready, like the rest of the records that we have on the Riley album, and kind of fit Riley's aesthetic as an artist. Other than that, vocal production, I didn't do much on this. Riley kind of does all of his own vocal production, but I'll at least show you what it sounds like. We've got a chorus lead pan to left, a chorus lead pan to right. We've got a background vocal, another background vocal, and then some different like call and response vocals.
You don't know what you've been missing, but somehow you like it. I don't know why you keep tripping, you're so indecisive. Go be back for the West Coast, you've been outside and you like it.
So when you have that many vocals, it's really easy to keep the production simple because those vocals really kind of create their own instrument. I don't need to kind of mimic that with other chordal elements or other lead elements or anything like that. I can just kind of let those ride because Riley did such a good job with it. Moving on to the second verse, let me show you what we had in the demo. So here's Crustacean's version. Basically just copy paste of the first version. This is where Platinum had his vocals, and I will say, Platinum goes crazy with vocal production, and I didn't do anything except add a little bit of EQ, but all of his stuff is literally baked into one stem. Here's what it sounds like. He's got 4-man control, he's got layers, he's got call and response.
I swear to God, that views are all that gets her off. 20K on TikTok, 20K a month to lease her Melrose. Oh, damn, I think this bitch is overpaying for that area.
So he got really, really creative with all of it. I literally just added an EQ to poke it into the mix. And then production-wise, I'm adding a couple things like that synth effects track here and there. And then it's really just about kind of catering to whatever Platinum did. Because when Crustacean did this demo, we didn't have a guest feature yet. And then we got Platinum on it. So I wanted to really make sure that with all of his call and response, the instrumental kind of mimicked that. So that was my job for the second verse.
I swear to God, that views are all that gets her. 20K on TikTok, 20K a month to lease her Melrose. Oh, damn, I think this bitch is overpaying for that area. She my chick designer with.
So as you can see, we're just like taking the drums out of a couple different areas to kind of give him his space. We add a little exhaust.
20K on TikTok, 20K.
Add a little cash register and a vocal shout.
Overpaying for that area. She my trick designer with designer pill. Brother with that was to skip the pen the drill.
And then we have one like comped E-piano from Crustacean for the original demo. It's like this really cool kind of like funky like elevator music E-piano, and I really liked it. But what I wanted to do is I wanted something that still kind of fit the first verse. So I took that E-piano that we had earlier, and then I printed it, sidechained it, and cut a bunch of dead space out. So it sounds like this. And then in the mix, it really just creates a nice little bit of width and space when that second part of the verse comes in.
This bitch is overpaying for that area. She my trick designer with designer pill. Brother with that was to skip the pen the drill. Rico on her toe, lips spilling headphones. Sushi De Niro, gun Bugatti, her body, Pilates, her drink Casamigo.
Again, pull everything out so Platinum can kind of do his thing. We have a little glitch that was from the original demo. Like that one, so I kept that one in quite a bit. And then other than that, we're just kind of moving on to the second verse that we've mimicked with me adding in that extra chord element, adding in that little G-funk lead, and then I think that's about it.
Only time she really only fancy flex the sex appeal.
Other than that, I just added in some extra little layers for the bass to kind of have some little runs. And then, funny enough, the only thing that I added was like a moan. Honestly, it's the first time I've ever done it in a song, but it called for it, so I had to step up and do it.
All the X's in the NBA. Keep it as she signing NDA. Tell them Riley what the fuck we say.
You don't know what you've been missing, but
So again, just pulled out everything because in the original demo, it just kind of kept going.
you don't know what you've been missing, but
So as you can see, we didn't change a lot of the original elements. It's really just about making it feel a bit more dynamic, adding a little width, adding a little excitement, adding a little space, and then really catering it to what the vocals are doing. Because when Crustacean made this original demo, it was just a track. There were no vocals. Riley didn't have vocals. Platinum didn't have vocals. And so I wanted to go in as a finishing producer and make sure that each of them had their little moments to shine. Other than that, the chorus kind of stays the same. The only thing that I think really changes is this little bridge that we have. Here's what the original is.
you've been outside every night, and you wonder why you're mad, but you like it.
So he just kept the vibe going, kept that loop kind of repeating. I went ahead and I swapped everything out. So I swapped this to just like a sub bass. I basically made a bunch of big pad synths, and then I gave Riley a specific vocal effect for this.
You've been outside every night, and you wonder why you're mad, but you like it. Yeah, you like it. If you just wanna cry, but get high, and you wonder why you're sad, but you like it.
So for that, I just really wanted a part that didn't feel like the same 8-bar loop over and over and over again. So I asked Riley, I was like, hey, for this, can we strip it back, kind of do like a halftime, super R&B kind of ballady thing? And he's like, sure, do whatever. So that's exactly what we did. We just have these synths that I added. And then we're just using some filtering on the bus. That's pretty much it. You can see it right here. That's literally the only thing we're doing. And then for the sub, I just got rid of that really clicky sub. So we just have this. And then for drums, I'm just using that RC20 that we had earlier just to filter them a bit. And that's it. That's all that I wanted to add for that. Other than that, we just go into the last little chorus that I don't really think anything changed. Let's go ahead and see.
Now throw it back for the West Coast. Now throw it back for the West Coast. Now throw it back for the West Coast.
Yeah, so Riley has some extra added vocals here, so I didn't feel the need to build it up with more synths and more synths. I wanted to let those like kind of yeah call and responses that he did really stand out, so I didn't fill it up with too much more stuff. And then other than that, instead of having that little bass slide, the wump bump, we go back to that record scratch that we had at the beginning. Nice little callback.
Now throw it back for the West Coast.
And then that is it for my additions. Nothing else that I can show you from me, just a bunch of risers and hits that we've already kind of gone over. The one thing I do want to show you, though, is something that was in the original. It was from Crustacean. He did this guitar solo that is nuts, and I just had to give him his props on this on the channel if you're watching this. So listen to this guitar solo he did. It was super, super sick.
For the West Coast.
What I will show you about this is I didn't do this production tip, but I can kind of show you what he did. So he has the lead guitar that's a great guitar sound. Sounds like it's a couple guitars comped together, has a bit of processing and distortion on it. I literally didn't add anything to these besides a little bit of reverb and EQ. But tone and everything was baked into the stem that he sent. I don't know if it was a live tri guitar or a VST. I'll have to ask him and let you know in the comments. But other than that, he had this layer in here that I thought was really cool and interesting. It's something that I have done on the channel, but I don't do it enough. And it's this like vocoder guitar. Listen to this. Very polyphia. It's one of those things that like Tim Henson does a lot. It's literally in the Tim Henson Neural DSP effect plugin, but I don't know if that's exactly what he used, but it was just really cool. And then he has these little flex bits. This is something I actually saw in a lot of his stems is he'll literally just print a delay on one part of one synth one time. And it's like this really cool ear candy. It sounds like this. Just cool little bit crushing stuff like that. Really takes a guitar solo from sounding pretty cool like this to something super interesting like this. That's going to do it for this tutorial. I do just want to say shout out to Crustacean. He did an amazing job on this original demo. Riley did an incredible job. Platinum did his thing with his verse. I really enjoy how this one came out. I was super happy to be part of the team that got to release this song and then all of the other songs that Riley's going to be releasing in the near future. So if you want to go check that out, check it out in the description down below. You can listen to all of his music. Other than that, that's going to do it for this tutorial. Let us know down below what tutorials you want to see in the future because we are taking requests right now. And then other than that, if you want to learn how to produce from start to finish, go check out our production course on our website, Make Pop Music. If you're looking for sounds similar to what you heard in this tutorial, we have drum samples and synth presets over there. We also have MIDI packs that you can use for song starters. So head over to makepopmusic.com. We have a ton of amazing tools over there. We even have a bunch of free content that you can download at no cost. So go check that out. That's going to do it for the tutorial this week. We'll see you guys next week with much more content. But until then, much love, everyone. Peace.